In this video, we're going to be going over the directions and cuts for this outside bench, which is 44 in length. Unfortunately, this bench has already been built, so I will be showing you a video with the finished product and then using still images as well as a cut list to go through all of the phases of production.
This top board is 44 at this top. This board right here is 42, and it's a result of the way that this side board, which is 17.5, is on the side, which gives you the total distance from corner to corner 44. We have the 4x4 post 4 inches below, and this is where I start to place this particular board, just 4 inches above where this post is. This is the 5-inch bolt which has a screw. Here we see the 4 lag screws that are in place right there. Another item, this X section right here to address a rough edge was used a router to kind of smooth it out a little, as well as the top section up there. I'm going to turn this thing over. You can see the back sides. Once again, we have the 5-inch bolt with the screw, which is up here. One more in this section. Actually, this is a lag screw. And then this 1 1/4 are being used in this section right here, so they don't protrude out on the other side. We have a support. There we see the 5-inch screw. 5-inch screw. Seems to be 4 of them. As I mentioned before, if you didn't want to put the 5-inch screw with the bolt, you can put a 2x4 from this section, 2x4 here, and then maybe screw it from the outside here. Screws will probably show, and then use this board here, this same distance. I would put one from here to here to kind of lock these in place, and then another one from here to here. I'm going to start building this. Again, what I do is I take the front, measure 4 inches from here to here. I draw my line, and then I place this board here. It's just going right up there with the edge. 4 inches going in this direction. Screw in this side. Go this way, and then just kind of continue along. Notice there's another support right here to kind of lock those in place. This is the rear back support. This is the piece that's cut at 42, piece that's at 17.5. And I used pressure treated wood for everything. Waited about 6 months for it to dry, and then painted it white.
Okay, here we're going to start going over the hardware list, and I used 4 5-inch hex bolts with nuts and washers, 3-inch lag screws, a box of 1 1/4 exterior deck screws, and 3-inch exterior deck screws as well. When we're looking at the bench from the bottom, we want to notice that there is the screws that I'm referring to are the hex bolts. There's 4 of them. 1, 2, there's one here, and then the 4th one is in this direction, and then these lag screws are going in this direction, and I'll be outlining that later on. Here is the wood list for the bench. We're using pressure treated lumber. We're using 5 1/4 by 6 pressure treated wood. And I don't know if you're going to be able to acquire these in 6 or 8 feet length, but if you are able to get them in 6 foot length, you would need about 8 pieces, and if you're getting 8 feet, you're going to need 6 pieces. The 4x4 post, you're going to need 1, again pressure treated. You probably could get away with about 6 foot because you're cutting them at 16 inches, and the 16-inch length is right here for those 4x4s. And then one 2x4, and you're going to get away with a 6 foot for that because you're really only using that for here. And then you may also want to use any scraps left over to kind of place in this direction if you choose, or on the back side to provide some additional support. Here we see the bench from the side or from the front, and we're looking at 44 in length. This board right here is 44, this is 44, and then there's 3, 4, 5, 44. This board right here is 42, and because the side is attached underneath the seat part, that is where you're going to get the total of 44 inches. So here we see the side or the seat part is the seat, and then the side piece goes here, comes here, and then that allows this board to fit inside as well as this particular piece. Here we see the cut list for all of the pieces, and I've tried to indicate the sides are here. These are the rear supports. They actually go on the back of this particular board, and you can't see the 1 1/4 screws protruding here, and that's because they were screwed in from the back. And the other thing I want you to take note of is that where do you position this board? It's 4 inches from the bottom of the 4x4 post, and then this piece was placed in first. And with this piece placed in first 4 feet from the bottom of the 4x4 post, then this is where that 5-inch screw went in with the washer and the bolt. From the side, we can see the 17.5-inch side piece. Here we see the lag screws, 1, 2, 3. I guess I use 4, 5, 6, and that 5-inch screw is going in this direction, and then there's one here, and I think I used a total of 4 of those. You probably can mix it up depending on what you're doing. You might make this bench longer, you might make it wider, and that of course would change the dimensions and the cuts that you're going to be using. Notice the rear support is right here as well, and we'll be addressing that later. Here we see the cut list for these particular pieces, as well as the hardware for the bolt with the screw, as well as the lag screws that are being used to attach the sides. You have that 4x4 post, you have the one side, you have the other side, and then those lag screws are coming in this direction here. And what I'm referring to as that side is this piece right here. And then that bolt is actually from the front to the back, and it's attaching each of those 4x4 posts. I'll come back to that later. Here we see the bottom, and with the bottom piece you see that 2x4 which fits inside, and that's providing a little more support so the seat part doesn't buckle. And then we have the that 5-inch screw, which is right here, attaching the front and then the back, where it has to go through the back, and then it also has to go through the rear support, which is why that screw or that bolt is 5 inches. And then those lag screws, I'll use yellow here, are being used in this direction. Now if you don't want to use those 5-inch screws, you think you don't want to go through that hassle, you can place a 2x4 here as well as a 2x4 here, and that's going to provide pressure. If we're looking at those 4x4 posts, I guess I could have used a better color here. The 4x4 posts are right here. Now we're looking at this from the side. Here's the seat part, and here's the back. And then what's going to happen is that 2x4, which is going to be here, is going to prevent those 4x4 posts from kind of moving in. They're not going to be like that. They're always going to be that. These 2x4s are going to prevent it. And then another thing you can do is get that 6-inch piece of wood, that front and that back, and then you can place it here to add a little more support, and that's going to kind of enclose that 4x4 post. What I mean by that is that here you have your 4x4, which which is right here. I'm trying to use white. Here's your 4x4 post. I'll make it a little bigger. And then that 2x4 is right here. The side piece is here. And then what you're going to do is just get another side piece. But that's going to be not visible, and it's going to keep that 4x4 post just locked. Here we see the cut list. And here we see the rear of the bench. And with the rear of the bench, you notice all of these screws here. And these are those, 1 1/4 inch screws that are just going through, these boards here. And that's just there to add some, support. There's also a board on the inside. I don't know if that was noticed. I'll bring that up later on. But again, when we're building this, we want to be 4 inches from here. That's where we want to start the bottom board. And then here we see the rear support, one of them, and it has a bunch of screws right here. Those 1 1/4. Here we see that 5-inch screw, and then or that bolt. Then this is a lag screw, that 5-inch bolt, and then we have lag screws coming in this direction as well. Here we see the cuts once again. And on this one, I did put like a 5-inch bolt here and a 5-inch bolt here. I mean, I guess that's optional if you're going to even use the bolts, or if you're going to go the 2x4 method, you're going to have to make that decision. You could use 2 5-inch bolts going in that direction. And what that would mean is that here we see the front and the back 4x4. Then we see, here we got the front piece, the second front, and this would be the back. And then we have that rear support, and that rear support is right here. And then that bolt is going to be going through all of that, which is why it has to be 5 inches in length. Here we see once again on the inside, and that's what I meant before. We are looking at this from the front. This right here is the front side, and that bolt, that screw and that bolt is coming right through the front board, bottom board, and going through the back. And we can see the washer and the nut on this side. As I mentioned, if you didn't want to do this, you can place a 2x4 here, and then a 2x4 here, and that's going to put pressure. And then you get this same board right here, this same board that you have plenty of, and you're going to place that here, and you would just have locked this 4x4 into place, preventing it from moving. Here we see the cut lists. Here we see the bench from this particular angle. And there we see some of those dimensions once again. As I mentioned, this right here, if you put that 2x4, that 2x4 would be right here, would be one, it would be another one, and then you want to use that 6-inch piece of wood on the outside here, and another one here, and that's going to prevent these 4x4s from moving. Once again, we see if you don't want to do that, you just want to use the 5-inch bolt, that's fine as well. And as far as this piece is concerned, with this, on the top, you're just screwing in with the 3-inch. So here's that 4x4, here's that 4x4, here's the seat part, and then you're going to screw in from here. You're just going to screw in those 3-inch screws right into the top of that 4x4. When you're looking at that 4x4, probably want to do something like that, like a number 5 on a die. Here we see the cut list, and then once again indicating that you could put those sideboards if that was something that you wanted to indicate or wanted to do instead of using those 5-inch screws. As far as the parts are concerned, as I mentioned before, these are going to be the length that you are going to need, and that 4x4 post, you're looking at about 16 inches there for that 4x4 post and length. You want to make sure that that is 16 inches in length for that 4x4 post, and you see the total cut list once again for all the items that you are going to need. And that's right there, though. That 16-inch post is right here. You're looking at that post that you're using right here. That has to be 16. So this right here is 16 inches in length, 16 inches, 16 inches, 16 inches. And then, we have that 2x4 that is going to be right here, and that's at 15.5. Once again, we see the hardware that's needed, and you could make adjustments to this. I actually have another bench that's about 6 feet in length, and I just put some additional supports in the center to kind of hold that. And one more thing that I would want to point out as we kind of wrap up here is that you know, the wood we're using has it doesn't have rounded edges. When you have those 4x4 posts in and you put the seat part and then you get the back in place, that the wood is just going to be very straight. You know, that could you know, if you're sitting down here, you know, here you are, you know, some people say that's not too comfortable. You know, feel free to round these edges with a router. That way you could, you know, get rid of that hard angle. That way this individual is happy. And that's it.